Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about inflation. The last video we talked about saving money for an emergency fund, how you should save your money, and I mentioned that you can certainly save money in an online bank or at a credit union, but keeping pace with inflation might be kind of tough if you do that. So an alternative to putting money in a savings account, an online savings account, or uh, a savings account at a credit union would be to put money in a mutual fund. And putting money in a mutual fund, although there's some risk, which means the value of your account might go down, there's also a chance that it'll keep pace with inflation because the returns can be higher than you would see inside a savings account. And so that kind of leads me to why we're talking about inflation today, and that is because you might find that you've got some money saved up in a savings account and a bank account and it's not really earning much interest. And the reason why is because of inflation. So today obviously we're talking about inflation, so I figured let's go and start with the definition of what inflation is. So we're going to be talking about what inflation is, how it's measured, and three, how it affects you as a consumer. All right, so step one, let's go ahead and define what inflation is. Inflation is basically the general rise in prices of common goods and services. So it's pretty straightforward, right? It's when common goods and services that we purchase go up in price. You probably noticed gas has gone up recently all across the country, no matter where you live. The price of food has gone up. Prices for vehicles have gone up, just to name a few examples. So yeah, it's happening everywhere, and it's affecting our pocketbooks. So I'll get into that in a little bit, but at the very least, we know what inflation is now. We have the definition, and what I want to talk about is I want to talk about how it's measured. Um, it can be complicated for some people, but it's actually pretty basic. So I'm going to try to simplify it in the most simplest terms for you, and we'll go over that right now. So inflation, how is it measured? So we have what's called the Consumer Price Index, the CPI. Okay, the CPI is put together by the United States Bureau of Labor and Statistics. So the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, what they do is they keep track of inflation on a monthly basis and on I think a quarterly basis, and definitely on an annual basis. So if you've been checking out the news recently, you might have heard that in 2021, last year, inflation was about 7%, 6 to 7%, and it really just depends on the area of country, but on average, it was 6 to 7% nationally. Okay, and so there's a system, there's a way that they determine that. There's a way that they make that determination. It's not just numbers that they pick randomly and okay, that sounds good. Let's say it's this number. No, that's not how it works. So what they've created is what's called the Consumer Price Index, the CPI. So keep an eye out for this term in the future, CPI. Whenever you hear it, just think of inflation. So the Consumer Price Index, what they do is they put together an index. An index is basically a number, okay? And the actual number that they use, I want to say it's a couple hundred. It's in the hundreds and maybe the thousands. I'm pretty sure it's the hundreds. And it may not mean too much to you, but they use it to measure the increase and the decrease in prices. So they use it to be able to tell, hey, was there inflation last month or last year? Did prices go up or did prices go down? And recently, prices for us have been going up. So there's been inflation. So the difference between prices going up and prices going down is pretty simple. So when prices go up, that indicates that inflation is taking place. Kind of like when you inflate a tire, the tire gets bigger, it grows, right? When inflation occurs, prices go up or prices increase. They get bigger, kind of like tires when you inflate them. So when you think inflation, think of inflate, to like inflate a tire. It gets bigger, it grows. And the opposite, when you hear deflation, deflation is the opposite. Deflation is when prices go down. When you deflate a tire, the pressure in the tire goes down. It's less. It decreases. So the same as when prices occur, prices change. If prices decrease, it's deflating, just like a tire does. So just wanted to give you, a quick a comparison between inflation and deflation. So now that we know what inflation is and deflation is, let's talk about inflation. So, for example, I have two figures here. Year one, Y1 stands for year one. Y2 stands for year two. So year one is 2021, that's last year. Year two is 2022, that's this year. So what we found was inflation went up by 7%, about 7% last year in 2021. And so this is an example of what CPI does, okay? So in my example, this is just my example. This is not the example that the Bureau of Labor and Statistics comes out with. These aren't the figures that they use, but this is just my example. But hopefully this illustrates how inflation works. So last year, let's just say you go to the grocery store and you buy a bunch of common goods and services that we all buy when we go to the grocery store. Let's say in 2021 it cost you $100 to buy these common goods and services. Okay. So you go every single month or every single week, you buy the same things. It costs $100 every time. I know that's not realistic, but this is just an example to illustrate how inflation works. So in 2021, you go to the grocery store, it costs you $100 every time you go. And now we're fast forwarding to 2022. We're in a new year. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to recalculate how much it costs. And if you've gone to the store recently, you probably realized that there's a lot of prices of goods that have gone up. So if we do the calculations now, we found that instead of it costing $100 here in 2022, it now costs $107. So what that means is instead of you being able to pay $100 for the same goods and services when you go to the store, you're now paying $107. That's more. So if you try to spend $100 now, you're not going to be able to buy as many items. And that's where inflation affects us. It affects our purchasing power. The power, the amount that we can buy, the amount that we can purchase decreases when inflation increases. And that's not fun because our money does not go as far as it used to. So basically, it was $100 last year, $107 this year. When you take the difference, that's a difference of 7, right? 7 divided by 100, which is what it cost last year, is 7%. So if you ever decide to do some research and you take a look at the CPI, the actual CPI numbers for last year, last month, whatever, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, when you look at their actual numbers, you can do the math. If they say the CPI was, 350 in year one, and now it's 400, you can do the math. 400 minus 350 is 50. 50 was the change in the prices of goods and services. Take that 50 and divide it by what it was last year, 350, and that'll give you the percentage of the inflation that took place. That's just an example. So hopefully this helps you make sense of how inflation works, how inflation is measured, what inflation is in the first place, and how it affects you as a consumer. So one thing that I will do is I will go ahead and leave some comments in the description below. So go ahead and check out the description below. And I'll leave some notes in there for you to check out that talk about inflation and how you can combat inflation if you're saving money and investing money. So yeah, that's really all that I have for you. It's pretty basic. I might make another video about inflation that goes into greater detail about some of the issues that inflation has an effect on, and inflation kind of exacerbates. But I'm not too sure just yet. But as always, if you like the video, go ahead and click the like button. If you have a comment, you want to ask a question or just leave a general comment, feel free to do that. And by all means, hit the subscribe button. If you want to check out the next video, which might be about inflation again, might not be, but whatever it is, it's probably going to deal with finances, as all the previous videos have dealt with. Just hit that subscribe button and you will be notified whenever the next video comes out in a few days. So as always, I thank you for watching. I hope this information that I gave you today positively impacts your life. It helps you to position yourself a little bit better financially. And I hope you have a positive day. So as always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.